It was a cold, foggy evening when Emily arrived at Blackwood House. Nestled on the outskirts of town, the mansion was known for its eerie past. It had stood abandoned for decades, yet rumors of strange occurrences surrounding it never seemed to die. Most of the locals avoided the place, whispering about the tragedy that befell the Blackwood family years ago. Emily, an investigative journalist, had made it her mission to uncover the truth behind the stories. As she stepped inside, the air felt unnaturally still. The floor creaked beneath her feet as she ventured deeper into the house. The wallpaper peeled from the walls in tattered strips, and the heavy scent of mildew lingered in the air. Her flashlight flickered, casting long shadows across the dusty, decaying rooms. But it wasn't the house's dilapidated state that disturbed her. It was the sense that something was watching. She wasn't alone. Emily had read about the mysterious deaths of the Blackwood family. They had been found lifeless in their home years ago, their faces frozen in terror. The police had never figured out what happened, but the whispers spoke of strange lights in the sky and haunting sounds coming from the house in the days before the tragedy. Some even claimed the house was cursed, that the Blackwoods had made a deal with something dark to gain wealth and power. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from upstairs, causing her heart to race. It wasn't the sound of wind or a rotting structure, it was something else. Emily hesitated but pressed on, following the noise. The staircase groaned under her weight as she ascended, the air growing colder with each step. At the top of the stairs, she found the door to a bedroom slightly ajar. A soft, rhythmic sound came from within, a whisper, like a chant in a language she couldn't understand. Emily pushed the door open, and her flashlight revealed an old, antique mirror hanging on the far wall. The reflection staring back at her wasn't her own. It was the face of a young woman, her features pale and distorted, her eyes wide with fear. Emily spun around, but the room was empty. She wasn't sure if it was the result of a trick of the light or if something darker was at play. Her breath quickened, and she backed away, suddenly feeling trapped. The door slammed shut behind her, plunging her into darkness. She fumbled with her flashlight, but it refused to turn on. The whispering began again, louder this time, growing frantic. She could hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer. Panicking, Emily tried to force the door open, but it wouldn't budge. The temperature in the room dropped drastically, and she could see her breath in the air. Then she felt it. A cold hand brushed against her neck, sending a wave of terror through her. She spun around, but there was nothing there, only the chilling darkness. Just as she was about to break down, the door flew open with a violent crash. Emily stumbled into the hallway, gasping for air. The house seemed alive with an energy she couldn't explain, its walls closing in on her. With trembling hands, she grabbed her phone and called the local historian she had spoken to earlier. He had warned her about the house's dark past, but she hadn't believed him. Now she wished she had listened. The Blackwoods didn't die by accident. The historian's voice crackled through the line. They made a deal with something that feeds on fear. It's still there, Emily. It won't let you leave. Suddenly the walls began to pulse, as if something was pushing from within. The floor beneath her feet started to tremble, and the distant sound of glass shattering echoed from downstairs. Emily ran, not knowing where to go, only wanting to escape. The house seemed to warp around her, rooms stretching into endless corridors. As she reached the front door, she found it locked. Desperate, she turned to the large windows, but the glass was solid, unbreakable. A low growl vibrated through the floorboards, and Emily froze in fear. She knew then that she wasn't alone. Something was hunting her. The whispering intensified, and the lights flickered one last time before everything went black. The next morning, the police arrived at Blackwood House. They found the front door wide open, the lights flickering in the abandoned mansion. But there was no sign of Emily, only the faint imprint of her hand on the mirror upstairs, as though she had been reaching out. In the local archives, a chilling photograph was discovered, one that hadn't been seen before. It showed the Blackwood family standing proudly in front of the house, but in the reflection of the window behind them, a dark shadow loomed. The shadow, now known as the Watcher, still haunts the halls of Blackwood House, waiting for its next victim. To this day, no one dares enter the mansion, and Emily's disappearance remains unsolved. Some say she never left. Others believe the house claimed a